There are moments when we cross paths with someone and feel an inexplicable resonance, as if the soul recognizes the other before the mind can even comprehend. In these deep connections, many wonder, could this person be a sign sent by something greater? When destiny, the divine, and the unconscious intertwine, subtle or sometimes resounding, confirmations arise that a higher force is guiding our encounters. And when that choice comes from a sacred place, the universe aligns everything so that you can see, feel, and understand. But how do we distinguish an encounter driven by the ego from a calling of the soul? What are the real and symbolic signs that announce someone has been chosen to be part of your journey? In this video, we will dive into the depths of the unconscious and spirituality to decipher these mysteries. If you believe that true love has spiritual roots, comment, "I trust in the wisdom of the universe." When we speak of the possibility that someone has been chosen for us by a higher force, we enter the symbolic realm that Carl Jung explored so profoundly, the collective unconscious and the principle of synchronicity. For Jung, there are no purely random coincidences when it comes to the psyche. There are encounters that carry archetypal meanings and appear as symbolic manifestations of something that needs to be integrated within ourselves. One of Jung's central ideas that helps us understand this kind of connection is the concept of projection. Often we project onto the other what we have yet to recognize in ourselves, our lights and shadows, our anima and animus, the unconscious feminine and masculine aspects within us. When we meet someone we are inexplicably drawn to, we are often facing a mirror of our own soul, something that cries out for recognition and integration. Another fundamental concept is individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are by integrating all dissociated parts of the psyche. Marked encounters often serve as catalysts for this process. Thus, if someone has been chosen for you, it's not just about a romantic partner. That person plays a symbolic role in your awakening and transformation. Finally, synchronicity, events without causal relation but linked by meaning, acts as the confirmation we so desperately seek. It's not just what happens, but how it resonates in your inner world. When the universe wants to tell you something, it uses the language of symbols. And when it's meant to be, the invisible reveals itself in tangible forms. When two people meet and feel a deep connection, we often try to explain it through logic, shared tastes, intellectual affinity, or simple attraction. But according to Carl Jung's analytical psychology, these significant encounters reveal much more than they seem. They are manifestations of the unconscious, expressed through symbols, images, intuitions, and synchronicities. In other words, we don't choose solely with our conscious mind. There is a subtler, more mysterious force working quietly, leading us to certain people who carry an essential role in our transformation process. The unconscious doesn't communicate through rational words, but through symbols, and a meaningful encounter, charged with emotional intensity and a sense of immediate recognition, is a living symbol that needs interpretation. When someone appears in our life with an inexplicable impact, they may represent something much greater than a mere potential partner. Perhaps they represent a hidden aspect of ourselves ready to come to light. This is what Jung would call a call to individuation, an invitation to psychic integration through the other. Often the unconscious draws to us people who embody what we have yet to recognize in ourselves, be it forgotten qualities, unresolved wounds, or dormant potentials. This process happens beyond our rational control, for it is guided by the deep needs of the soul. When a connection touches us symbolically, reminding us of ancient dreams, awakening archetypal emotions, or provoking inner crises, it is a clear sign that the encounter was mediated by something beyond personal will. This symbolic language appears in various forms: recurring dreams about the person, spontaneous intuitions, déjà vu sensations, repeated coincidences, or even the emergence of archetypes in behaviors and feelings stirred. The lover archetype, for example, can powerfully manifest in relationships that lead us into a profound emotional dive, while the healer archetype may arise when the other seems to hold the exact remedy for our unconscious pain. In these dynamics, the unconscious operates like an invisible director, guiding characters and scenes to fulfill a greater purpose. Therefore, saying that someone was chosen for you may carry a far deeper psychological and symbolic meaning than a purely religious or literal one. The soul chooses what the ego does not understand, and the universe responds to this movement with signs that defy logic, but make complete sense to those who learn to listen with the heart and intuition. This listening requires inner silence, openness to the language of dreams, attention to recurring emotional patterns, and a willingness to recognize that often the other comes not to complete us, but to reveal the truth of who we really are. Thus, encounters that seem predestined do not arise merely as promises of romance, but as bridges to an inner journey. And what makes that encounter special is not only the presence of the other, but what they awaken in us. When an encounter shakes the deep structures of the psyche, when we feel we are no longer the same after someone's arrival, we face a living symbol of the unconscious in action. This is the beginning of the symbolic journey of purpose-driven love. When the universe uses the invisible language to place on our path that which or who is in harmony with our awakening process. Understanding this is to realize that not every encounter is random, and that the soul has its own map to guide us to who we need to meet. One of Jung's most powerful discoveries is the phenomenon of projection, the human psyche's tendency to attribute to the other that which it does not recognize or accept in itself. When we feel a deep attraction to someone, our usual impulse is to believe we are facing an extraordinary, special soul unlike any other. But often, what we are truly seeing is a reflection of something within us that has not yet been fully integrated. Therefore, the phrase, "if the universe chose someone for you," can also be understood as, the unconscious brought someone so that you can see yourself more clearly. Projection is inevitable, especially in romantic relationships. It is through projection that we see in the other our idealizations, our needs, our deepest desires, but also our shadows, fears, and fragilities. At the beginning of a relationship, this projection tends to be positive. We see in the other what we wish to be, or what we feel is missing in ourselves. This is the moment when the other becomes a charming mirror, radiating qualities that seem magical. Yet that shine comes not only from the person themselves, but from the symbolic charge we deposit in them. Jung identified that the psyche contains archetypal figures called Anima and animus, internal representations of the feminine and masculine within each of us. Intense attraction sometimes occurs because we project these unconscious images onto the other. A man, for instance, may project his anima onto a woman and feel that she embodies everything he emotionally seeks, even though he doesn't truly know her. A woman may project her animus onto a man, attributing to him a strength or wisdom that she herself possesses but has yet to acknowledge. These projections are invitations to integration. This kind of attraction, though initially blind, carries a profound call, the call to rediscover lost parts of one's own soul. When we say someone seems made to measure, it may be that they are indeed reflecting an aspect of us that cries out for recognition. This is one of the most delicate and potent ways the universe teaches us about who we are. It is not uncommon that, after some time together, projections begin to dissolve, revealing the reality of the other, and with it, our own truth. From that point on, the relationship ceases to be a stage for illusions and becomes fertile ground for individuation. It is important to understand that projection is not a mistake, but a stage. Without it, there would be no initial impetus drawing us to the other. It is the mechanism that activates the encounter, that awakens enchantment, that generates movement. The problem arises when we remain trapped in the projected image and refuse to see the person as they really are. Likewise, when we fail to recognize that what we love or hate in the other may actually be speaking more about us than about them, we miss the chance to grow. If the universe, through the unconscious, connects us to someone who seems destined, this does not guarantee a relationship free of challenges. On the contrary, the deeper the projection, the greater the potential for transformation. This is because the other forces us to look inward, to deal with emotions long asleep, to confront parts we have long avoided. In these cases, the encounter serves as a mirror of the soul and also as a portal of healing. Therefore, when we feel an intense, inexplicable attraction, it is worth asking, what am I seeing in this person that actually lives within me? What part of my soul do they awaken? What do I need to integrate in myself so that I stop seeking in the other? By answering these questions honestly, we realize that more than falling in love with someone, we are being called to fall in love with who we truly are. And that is one of the most authentic signs that the universe is guiding us not only to an outward love, but to the essential love that dwells within us. Every meaningful relationship works like a mirror. In it, we not only see the other, but above all, we are compelled to see ourselves. Intimate coexistence with all its lights and shadows ends up revealing who we really are beneath the surface of social masks and idealizations. Jung understood this dynamic as an essential part of the individuation process, the path by which we become whole, integrating conscious and unconscious aspects of our personality. Thus, when the universe places someone special before us, that person does not appear merely to fill a void, but to challenge us to grow, awaken, and be more true to ourselves. Individuation is not a simple process. It demands confronting the shadow, accepting internal contradictions, renouncing false ideals, and deeply listening to the unconscious. Relationships, especially the most intense ones, become catalysts for this journey because they force us out of our emotional comfort zone. What we cannot stand in the other is often exactly what we do not want to see in ourselves. Likewise, what we admire may be a quality in us that has been repressed or forgotten. In this stage, projection yields to revelation. The other ceases to be an ideal or an enemy and becomes a mirror of our own psychic complexity. Jung affirmed that human wholeness is only achieved when one integrates the opposites within: reason and emotion, masculine and feminine, light and shadow. Relationships push us directly into this encounter with opposites. A more rational partner may compel us to develop sensitivity. An emotional partner may call us to presence and balance. Authentic relationships do not keep us the same, they transform us. And that is why often when we feel someone was sent to us, that person arrives accompanied by the necessary discomfort to break old patterns and open us to new levels of consciousness. Not every relationship that appears to have been chosen by a higher force will be smooth. Sometimes the universe unites us with someone precisely so that we confront what we have long avoided: traumas, inherited patterns, limiting beliefs, affective dependency, or self-deception. In these cases, the other's presence functions as a mirror we cannot ignore. Facing that mirror with honesty can be painful, but it is also profoundly liberating. It is at that moment that we understand the encounter's purpose is not merely romantic love, but self-knowledge and transformation. When two people are willing to walk together through this process, the relationship becomes a sacred laboratory. In it, every conflict becomes an opportunity for healing, every frustration reveals an unconscious need, every crisis opens the door to greater truth. The relationship then reflects not only the desire to be with the other, but the desire to be whole. This demands courage, presence, deep listening, and, above all, renunciation of control. The soul does not follow the same paths as reason, and when it chooses someone, it is because that encounter plays a role in our awakening. In this context, the universe acts as a synchronizing force, bringing together people whose encounters carry symbolic potency. When we say someone was chosen for us, we acknowledge that that relationship is an instrument in our individuation process. It reveals what we need to integrate, illuminates our gaps, and awakens our most forgotten potentials. That is why certain relationships leave such deep marks. They made us see something that was previously hidden. Confirmation that someone aligns with our individuation process does not come only through pleasure or enchantment, but through the lasting impact that person has on our inner journey. The true soulmate is not the one who makes us forget who we are, but the one who helps us remember, even if that requires weathering storms, ruptures, or uncomfortable mirrors. In the end, love's greatest purpose is not to keep us safe, but to make us whole. At crucial moments in life, certain events seem to conspire to lead us to people, places, and experiences with transformative roles. These are events that defy linear logic and yet make deep sense within us. Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, the simultaneous occurrence of two or more events linked not by cause, but by meaning. When we say the universe confirms an encounter, a connection, or a choice, it is precisely this principle at work, the unconscious and the external world dancing in harmony to reveal what needs to be seen. Synchronicity manifests when there is a correspondence between what is happening internally and externally. For example, intensely thinking of someone and suddenly receiving a message from them, dreaming of an old love and unexpectedly running into them on the street, making a difficult choice and then hearing a line in a book or movie that answers your doubt. These signs are not the product of chance, but of symbolic communication between the self, the psyche's regulating center, and reality. When we are open to this language, we begin to notice that the universe is constantly sending us messages. In romantic encounters, synchronicity can appear in various ways. Unlikely coincidences that bring two people together, recurring symbols that connect stories, repetitions that cannot be ignored. Sometimes the same song plays repeatedly, just when you think of someone. In other cases, numbers, names, dates, or specific words present themselves as if guiding you. These signs are not rational proofs, but subtle confirmations that awaken an inner certainty. Jung did not see these occurrences as magic or superstition, but as revelations of the symbolic field in which we live. He believed everything we experience carries a psychic dimension, and external events mirror what happens in the soul. When the soul is ready for an encounter, the universe aligns circumstances to make it happen and sends signs so we can recognize our readiness. The sensitivity to perceive synchronicity depends on inner listening. Those trapped in rational thought tend to dismiss these experiences as insignificant coincidences, but those who have crossed the dark night of the soul know the invisible speaks loudly, and signs are more eloquent than any logical argument. Therefore, when someone appears in your life with an inexplicable force, and events unfold almost magically around that presence, it is essential to pay attention. Synchronicity functions as a symbolic compass. It does not force, but it indicates. It does not determine, but it confirms. And the confirmation does not come from outside, but from how the symbol resonates within you. The symbol touches a part of the soul that recognizes something essential, even without words. This perception is especially powerful in moments of doubt. When the ego questions, the unconscious responds with images, dreams, signs, encounters, and sensations that cannot be fabricated. If there is something to be lived with someone, the universe creates pathways. If not, symbolic silence is also a response. The absence of clear signs can be an invitation to look inward, to find your center before seeking another. It is important to remember that synchronicity is not a guarantee of permanence. Someone may appear profoundly significant and still not remain in your life. This does not nullify the encounter's value. On the contrary, it confirms that the symbolic purpose of that moment was fulfilled. Some people come to open doors, light candles, break down walls, and that alone is an immeasurable gift. The soul recognizes what is true, even if it is fleeting. So when signs start repeating, when the world around you seems to speak directly to your intuition, pause and listen. The universe speaks in silence, responds in symbols, and guides through synchronicity. And when someone really has been chosen for you, not by your ego but by your soul, the universe ensures confirmation, even if through a simple detail only you can understand. There are encounters that transcend logic and speak straight to the soul. When someone enters our life with an inexplicable force, provoking profound internal changes, we are not facing a coincidence, but a symbolic response from the universe. In light of Jung's analytical psychology, we understand that the most significant relationships not only touch us, they reveal us. They bring forth our shadow, awaken our hidden potential, and invite us on a journey of individuation. If someone truly was chosen for you, don't expect only comfortable feelings. Expect mirrors, signs, deconstructions, and rebirths. True love spares us nothing from the truth. It gently leads us to it. The universe speaks through synchronicity, and when we pay attention, we realize nothing is accidental. Everything is an invitation to awaken. If this content touched a part of your story or sparked deep reflections, subscribe to the channel now. Your inner journey deserves to continue being nourished by knowledge, symbols, and consciousness. And don't forget to watch the video on your screen. It's the natural continuation of the transformation path that has already begun within you. The soul recognizes what is its own, and the universe always confirms.